I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel.
I want to usher in spring. And what medium says spring more than watercolors? So for this project, I was thinking of making a flower pattern, but I wanted to do it in watercolor rather than Procreate, which is what I would usually do something like that on. So I sketched out possible flowers to add to the pattern. Let's get started. Now, usually I would do watercolor with a regular old pencil. It's turned out okay, but as you can see with this example, you can see some of the markings still there that didn't get fully erased when I went through them. You can still see it here. And I feel like it looks okay on this, but I don't want that this time. Even if you get more water, it like smudges and makes more of it grays the color. So I'm gonna test out, I don't know why I've never used this before, but I'm gonna test out some watercolor pencils and see if they really make that big of a difference.
So here I've cracked out my light table or light board to trace the design onto watercolor paper. If you don't have a light board, that's totally okay. You can easily use a window with nice lighting. Just tape your design onto the window and then tape your watercolor paper on top of it, and you can trace it that way. You may notice that this doesn't look like too much of a pattern yet, but once we get our watercolor finished, we are going to figure out together how to use Photoshop to create patterns. Now that the line art is complete, I've broken out my student grade Winsor Newton watercolors and am picking out an Artist Loft paintbrush. I chose a larger one with a very pointed tip because it gives a better variety of brush strokes, so you can do really small places and get really small in there, or you can flatten it more, press harder, and you can be able to cover a bigger area. So you can see I'm using the tip here. But you can also cover a much larger area as well. Pretty versatile. When working with watercolor, I'm always trying to remind myself to work from light to dark and really use the water as a way of distributing the pigment. Patience is also key, which is a virtue I am still working on. So we have layer 1 done, and I will leave it to dry. To distract myself, let's take a look at how the plants are coming along. It's actually snowing here. Back inside we go. I already really like how different the lines look with the watercolor pencils. They really take to the water and are trying to increase the saturation in different parts, kind of shadowing where shapes would overlap and where shadow might fall, increasing the pigmentation and saturation of the colors that we've already chosen to put on. So basically just another layer of the same stuff, making sure that we keep our lights light. skipping forward in time just a smidgen, you can see in some places where shadow would fall a bit more heavily, I have put a little bit of blue along with increasing the other colors' saturations. I placed a layer of yellow over the whole thing, try and imitate the sun. And now, kind of skipping even more ahead in time, I am placing a layer of blue over on top of everything. I want to make sure you can still see that yellow on the edges. This is sort of like in digital illustration, in Procreate, or in Photoshop, the layering effects. Basically, when you're watering down the colors, it's kind of like the opacity. So you're creating a light opacity blue layer over top all of your other colors, which is scary, but it does pay off. Now, any sane, patient artist would give it a day or two and wait to see how they feel about their illustration or their painting before they do anything else to it, because it really did look pretty good without the ink. But here I am, going in with some India ink to really try to make everything pop and create some more texture and contrast between everything. It makes the illustration a bit harsher, and I did like the softness before looking back at it, but I also love to ink things. So what are you gonna do?
Alright, now we are going to try to use Photoshop and make this into a pattern that could go on like a bag, shirt, wrapping paper, what have you.
Now, after you have taken a picture of your illustration and cleaned it up, you're gonna open up Photoshop and select a new file, making sure that it is transparent when you create the file. So for this whole process, your best friends are going to be the lasso tool and the magic wand tool. You can just drag your picture from your files onto Photoshop, and then as you click the magic wand tool, you can just erase everything that is kind of marked as the same. And if it's not picking up everything that you need to erase, you just pull in your lasso tool, like right here, and then you can erase in there. So you just want to get that background totally gone. Now that we have our background gone, I opened up a new document, again with a transparent background, and duplicated our picture, our illustration, and pulled it onto the new document, just so I can work in a clean space. So we're going to go again and use our lasso tool, and I'm just going to select, sort of separate, not the item that I want itself, but everything that is around it. Yes, as you can see. And then I'm just gonna erase all of it.
Once we have our flower all by itself, make sure that you have the flower layer selected specifically. You can do that over the layers tab, and then you're going to go to the edit tab up at the top, and you're going to pick free transform so that you can increase the size of your flower. And that way, once it's the size you want it, you can bring all of your separated items onto the same page as your original bouquet. And just play around and try to figure out the best way to create your pattern, which for me was a lot of trial and error. Once you have your pattern piece the way you would like it to be, you can go to your filter tab up at the top, go down to other and pick offset. You can mess around with the horizontal offset and the vertical offset until you get something that will create a reoccurring pattern. Once you're satisfied, you can go to edit, down to define pattern, pick a name for your pattern, and press OK. Then you can open up a new document, and in layer styles you can pick any patterns that you've saved. So you can make a pattern out of just about anything and save it in Photoshop, and you can have it right away. For a little extra fun, or just because I like to make my life harder, I decided to see what my pattern would look like on a thermos. So if you want to do this, your friends are going to be the transform tools, the distort, perspective, and the warp tools. Those are all in the edit tabs. Creating some shading some very rudimentary shading, as you can see, to make the pattern look a bit more like it's actually on the thermos instead of dropped on there and shush. All in all, I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. A part of me is, I don't know, I'm always critical of my own stuff, but I'm pretty happy with it. And honestly, just excited that I actually did it, because I've been thinking of doing this for a while and never make the time. So, thank you to everyone who actually made it this far in the video. We'll see how it turns out. Hopefully it'll turn out at least as good as I think the pattern did. I was really happy with the watercolor pencils. I think from now on, anytime I'm using watercolors, I'm definitely no longer using pencils. That's probably something really simple that I was just dumb about. As you can see, it is quite beautiful and springy out. I'm gonna have to turn you around and show you some of the plants now. There's no snow. We've got some beautiful, beautiful irises. Lovely forget-me-nots. And really lots and lots of just purple dead nettle. It's just popping up everywhere this year. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you have an amazing spring. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. I won't be able to upload super frequently, but I do have an idea for another project to figure out. So, let's learn together.